In recent years, China has rapidly emerged as a dominant force in the electric vehicle market, producing affordable EVs at a scale and price point that few other countries can match. Europe, with its ambitious climate goals and commitment to reducing carbon emissions, faces a dilemma. It needs more EVs to achieve its 2030 targets, but the surge of Chinese imports is creating major disruptions in the European auto industry. Chinese EVs, often half the price of their European counterparts, are flooding the market, causing tension and prompting the EU to propose steep tariffs. But can these tariffs slow down China's EV dominance, or are they simply a temporary measure against a much larger global shift? In this video, we explore the rise of China's EV industry, Europe's struggle to compete, and what this battle means for the future of the automotive world and the environment. China's electric vehicle revolution has taken the world by storm. In just a few short years, the country has gone from a modest player in the global auto industry to a dominant force, with Chinese brands now producing millions of affordable EVs each year. The scale and speed of this growth have been unprecedented, and Europe is beginning to feel the impact. One of the most significant factors behind China's EV dominance is state-backed support. The Chinese government has made no secret of its ambitions to lead the global EV market. Through a combination of subsidies, incentives, and strategic investments, China has built a robust EV ecosystem, giving its manufacturers a competitive edge that few other countries can match. State capitalism in China ensures that entire sectors, including EVs, receive vast financial support, allowing Chinese companies to produce cars at prices dramatically lower than their competitors. Economies of scale have also played a crucial role in this rapid growth. Chinese automakers, such as BYD and NIO, have mastered mass production, slashing costs and delivering cars like the BYD Seagull for as little as $10,000, prices that are unthinkable for European or American manufacturers. This affordability has allowed Chinese brands to gain a foothold in markets across the globe, especially in Europe. But the most significant advantage China holds is its control over the EV supply chain. China produces over 80% of the world's battery manufacturing capacity, which is the heart of every electric vehicle. Unlike Europe and the US, China has already secured long-term dominance over this critical component, leaving its competitors struggling to catch up. The combination of government support, economies of scale, and control over key resources has put China at the forefront of the EV race. Europe is facing a pivotal moment in its quest to balance climate goals with the protection of its domestic automotive industry. On one hand, the European Union has set ambitious targets to reduce emissions, aiming for a 55% reduction below 1990 levels by 2030. Achieving this goal hinges on the widespread adoption of electric vehicles, as the region tries to wean itself off fossil fuels. However, there's a major problem: affordable EVs are scarce, and China is flooding the market with cheaper alternatives, putting Europe in a difficult position. Chinese EVs are arriving at prices that European automakers simply cannot match. Some models, like the BYD Seagull, sell for as little as $10,000, while the cheapest European EVs hover around $20,000. Europe needs affordable EVs to encourage mass adoption, but an influx of low-cost Chinese vehicles is a double-edged sword. While these vehicles could help meet climate targets, they threaten to undercut European manufacturers, which are struggling to produce EVs at competitive prices. In response, the European Union has proposed new tariffs on Chinese EVs, potentially up to 36.3%. These tariffs aim to level the playing field by addressing the perceived unfair advantage Chinese automakers receive from government subsidies. But this raises a dilemma. Can Europe protect its industry without slowing down the green transition? Adding to the complexity, Europe's automakers are divided. While some, like those in France and Italy, support tariffs to protect their markets, others, especially German carmakers with large investments in China, oppose the move, fearing retaliation and disruptions to their supply chains. Europe's dilemma is clear. It must find a way to encourage the growth of its own EV industry while fending off Chinese competition, all without derailing its urgent climate goals. As the electric vehicle market becomes increasingly competitive, the European Union has found itself at the center of a growing trade dispute with China. The sudden influx of affordable Chinese EVs has raised alarms among European policymakers, leading to the proposal of steep tariffs aimed at curbing imports. But this response has sparked a complex web of trade tensions that could have far-reaching consequences for both sides. The proposed tariffs, which could reach as high as 36.3% on Chinese EVs, come on top of an existing 10% import duty. The EU argues that these measures are necessary to counteract the unfair advantages Chinese automakers enjoy from government subsidies and state support. This tactic is not new. The EU has historically used tariffs as a tool to protect its industries from what it views as unfair competition. However, the stakes are higher than ever given the urgency of the climate crisis and Europe's reliance on electric vehicles to meet its emissions targets. Yet, the effectiveness of these tariffs remains in question. Analysts warn that imposing such high duties may not significantly slow the tide of Chinese imports, which could continue to dominate the market despite the financial barriers. In fact, some studies suggest that tariffs would need to exceed 40% to have a substantial impact. This raises an important question. Will these tariffs ultimately harm European consumers by limiting their choices and driving up prices for electric vehicles? The potential for retaliation from China adds another layer of complexity to this situation. Chinese officials have made it clear that they will not sit idly by as the EU imposes tariffs. Already, China has filed complaints with the World Trade Organization, challenging the legality of the proposed measures. Furthermore, there are concerns that China could target European industries in retaliation, particularly the automotive sector, which relies heavily on exports to the Chinese market. European automakers find themselves caught in the middle of this geopolitical tug-of-war. While some companies support tariffs to protect their domestic markets, others, particularly German car manufacturers with extensive operations in China, worry about the long-term implications for their businesses. They fear that retaliatory measures could jeopardize their existing investments and market access. As the EU navigates these turbulent waters, it faces a delicate balancing act, protecting its automotive industry while fostering the rapid growth of electric vehicles. This is not just a trade dispute, it's a high-stakes game that could redefine the future of mobility in Europe and beyond. With the clock ticking towards 2030 and climate targets looming, the EU must tread carefully to ensure that its response to Chinese competition does not inadvertently stall its green ambitions. The rising tide of Chinese electric vehicles has not only triggered a trade war but has also exposed a deep internal conflict within the European automotive industry. As the EU grapples with the challenges posed by affordable Chinese imports, the reactions of European car manufacturers reveal a landscape fraught with differing interests and priorities. On one side of the debate are the traditional automakers, particularly those in France and Italy, who see the proposed tariffs as a necessary shield against the onslaught of low-cost Chinese EVs. These manufacturers argue that without protective measures, they risk losing market share and, ultimately, their very survival. For them, tariffs represent a lifeline, providing the breathing room needed to innovate and compete. They contend that these measures are essential not just for safeguarding jobs, but also for ensuring the future of the European automotive sector as it pivots toward electrification. However, on the other side stands a group of influential stakeholders, primarily German automakers, who advocate for a more cautious approach. With substantial investments in China and a strong export market there, these companies fear that retaliatory measures could cripple their operations. They highlight the risk of escalating tensions leading to a trade war that would be detrimental to all involved. For them, the current landscape requires collaboration rather than confrontation. They believe the focus should be on improving competitiveness and innovation rather than isolating European manufacturers from global markets. This internal conflict not only complicates the EU's tariff strategy but also poses a significant dilemma for policymakers. The division within the industry underscores the broader challenge of balancing national interests with a unified European strategy. As automakers navigate these turbulent waters, they must confront the reality that the decisions made today will shape the automotive landscape for decades to come. As Europe stands at a crossroads in its automotive journey, the question looms: what will the future of European mobility look like in the face of rising competition from China? The answer hinges on the continent's ability to adapt, innovate, and ultimately redefine its automotive landscape in response to the rapidly evolving electric vehicle (EV) market. The shift to electrification is not merely a trend, it represents a fundamental transformation of how Europeans will move in the years to come. With the EU committed to reducing emissions and promoting sustainable transportation, the focus is increasingly on developing a comprehensive ecosystem that supports EV adoption. This includes expanding charging infrastructure, enhancing battery technology, and fostering a circular economy that prioritizes recycling and sustainable sourcing of materials. Moreover, the competition from Chinese EVs has sparked a newfound urgency among European manufacturers to invest in research and development. To compete effectively, they must innovate not only in vehicle design and technology but also in pricing strategies. This may lead to the emergence of new players and business models, as established manufacturers explore partnerships and collaborations with tech firms to leverage advancements in artificial intelligence, autonomous driving, and smart mobility solutions. However, the path forward is fraught with challenges. The internal divisions within the automotive industry, coupled with external pressures from global competitors, require a unified strategy from policymakers. A coordinated approach that balances protectionism with the need for collaboration will be crucial to ensure that European automakers remain competitive on the global stage. Ultimately, the future of European mobility hinges on the continent's ability to embrace change. By leveraging its rich history of engineering excellence and innovation, Europe can carve out a new identity in the EV landscape, one that not only meets climate goals but also enhances the quality of life for its citizens. The next decade will be pivotal, determining whether Europe can lead the way in sustainable mobility or be left behind in a rapidly changing world. Thank you for watching until the end. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.